part 3 of episode 15 of Smack Talk. And before we start getting into the R-Truth and Miz stuff, talk about one of the other injuries that was on Monday Night Raw, and that was Eve Torres breaking her nose during a clothesline that Beth Phoenix gave her. I completely didn't see that happen, but I thought it was kind of funny. I mean, I wouldn't want my nose to be broken, but I still would expect people to laugh at me if it happened.
I was completely caught off guard because she looked perfectly fine when she did that last segment with Kane.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they filmed that ahead of time.
Yeah, apparently it was pre-taped before the show, so...
Which gives them no excuse for how awkward it was. They could have done a retake. It was awful. I hated it.
Yeah, and I know this is getting completely off topic, but especially how they started off, like Jericho's in the ring, taunting Punk, and then all of a sudden you hear the screaming. I'm like, where's the cameraman who's close to somebody by the crowd who's just screaming like that or something?
I thought the exact same thing.
I'm just like, shut up, and then it just translates to Kane. Awful acting from both of them backstage to end the show. As you said, it was awkward. It was horrible. But
not only that, but there was during the David Otunga segment, there was some kind of sounded like a chain rattling or something like that. I rewound it a couple times on my DVR, and it just sounded like I don't know, the ghost from Christmas Past was popping up and gonna pop into the ring and talk to Ghost Rider's attacking fucking David Otunga.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but that's pretty interesting. I have to check that out or pay more attention to it. I mean, it wasn't a Otunga segment.
Tony's the guy that found that fat guy that got smacked by the cameraman.
Yeah, I pay extra attention to the fuck ups on the show.
That segment itself, just the way they built up to it, I'm like, who is that close to a raging fan? Seriously, this is driving me crazy.
But the R-Truth and Miz stuff. Now, during the six-pack challenge, which I honestly thought was a very, very stupid idea to do. You don't put the 6 guys in a match where it's all 6 of them facing each other that close to the pay-per-view. If you want to have something where the person gets the final spot, wouldn't the logical thing be a beat the clock challenge? You have 6 different matches on the card for Monday Night Raw, and you have Jericho get the fastest win by just kind of rolling somebody up or something like that and winning that way. That way you keep them all separate, but you still keep the feud going and everything like that. Thought it was kind of stupid, but during that match, R-Truth jumps over the top rope, and Miz doesn't catch him properly. Or, as James Storm said, Lance Storm, not James Storm. Lance Storm said that Truth rotated wrong, and that's why he landed the way that he did, but that Miz is still a bad catcher and everything like that. Gregory Helms said Miz failed to catch him, and a bunch of other people are really getting a lot of heat on Miz for this. Apparently, Miz was loudly disciplined backstage in front of the other wrestlers by Triple H, and I'm assuming a couple other people, about him not being safe, and you can't do that and everything like that. So Miz is kind of he's kind of in the doghouse right now, and it's a shame to say that because he's so talented and everything, but they're blaming him for the Survivor Series buy rate, which is total bullshit in my opinion. I mean, if you can say that you have The Rock and John Cena and people still didn't buy the pay-per-view, you can't say it's Miz's fault for it. Why don't you admit what's true, that people just didn't care enough about Rock and Cena to buy it solely for that, because their feud was fucking awful.
Not to mention that show as a whole, the build-up was completely lackluster for basically all the matches. Where was the interest?
The elimination match was thrown together at the last minute.
On WWE.com, wasn't even announced on television at first. First time I heard of it was just in my Facebook, news feed. And I'm just like, okay, that match is announced? Oh, okay. And then, Miz and Truth, the main event, we knew Cena didn't really need Rock's help.
Right, because the first week he beats the shit out of both of them.
Single-handedly.
Yeah.
And there's just no interest. It just proved that they can't rely on Cena and Rock. Well, maybe for WrestleMania since they're going to be wrestling each other, but
And it's had a
they were
year to build up.
yeah. So they couldn't just rely on them in a tag team match to sell a pay-per-view. They couldn't even, rely on The Rock in his first match back to sell that pay-per-view completely. And that's all to blame on the build-up.
Mm-hmm.
If there were more interest in that show, it would have sold better. So to blame the entire buy rate on The Miz, it's just like, oh, who can we, put blame on? Oh, that guy.
Yeah, who can we use as a scapegoat?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
How can you blame 1/4 of 4 people that were in the same match? It's not even like I'm going to pick the Miz when the Miz had one of the higher buy rates for WrestleMania. He was involved in the main event, and it's not even like Survivor Series did bad buy rates wise. It's just they set their expectations attitude era, and wrestling doesn't have that interest like it did in the attitude era.
Yeah.
So it's very unfair to say, all right, 1/4 of that main event was the reason it didn't work.
Not to mention, I'm sure the buy rate was higher than last year's too. It's slightly increased, from 2009 to 2010 it went up, and then 2010 to 2011 it went up too. So at least they did see some sort of increase. Like they were, if anything, they should probably be slightly disappointed that The Rock didn't draw as much as they thought they did. Why blame The Miz? It makes no sense.
Yeah, and when your pay-per-views are $50 a pop,
Mm-hmm.
what do you expect? Because I mean, we had at my house we had about 6 or 7 people.
Yeah, we had quite a bit of people.
10 years ago, those 6 or 7 people may have watched it in their house because it was only like $20 to order a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
So blame yourselves.
But I can't understand that, but I can understand having some Miz on him. Jesus God, I really am tired for this episode. I apologize to everybody. Some heat on Miz for not catching truth properly, because that's obviously something that you do that once and it could be the end of somebody's career or the end of somebody's life. But I mean, accidents happen. Look at what happened with Draws. Look at what happened with Owen Hart. Look at what happened with a lot of the people. Like, stuff happens, and R-Truth is okay. I mean, not that makes what Miz did acceptable, but I'm sure Miz didn't do it on purpose, and it was just a mistiming and all that kind of stuff. A Miz timing pun. But
he made a bit of a mistake.
Yeah.
Embarrassing.
So, I don't know what they're really going to do with this, but as far as I'm concerned, I think that they're in one of their little pissy moods right now. It seems like they're getting frustrated with the build to WrestleMania, and they're kind of... I could see them giving Miz a Money in the Bank spot, and naturally he won't win it. He wouldn't have won it anyway, because they typically don't do that. But I could see them giving him a Money in the Bank spot, having him be literally like nothing on the card other than another name in that, on par with Randy Orton and Dolph Ziggler and the other former world champions that are going to be in that. Jack Swagger probably.
Yeah, and look back 2 years ago, CM Punk was in the doghouse, and look at him now. So
right.
I think every wrestler goes to this era or this phase.
Yeah, I think what's going to end up happening is we're going to see, if they do another draft after WrestleMania, I would not be surprised at all if Miz goes to SmackDown. And then they immediately realize, oh shit, we always do this. We always take everybody away from SmackDown, like a Cody Rhodes, put them on Raw, don't do anything with them, and then we take somebody like Miz, put them on SmackDown, and then they have to be the top guy, even if we didn't necessarily want it. So I'm thinking, by the time we get to, well, whatever pay-per-view it's going to be around SummerSlam, because they keep changing the goddamn schedule, but whenever we get to that time, it's going to be that Miz is still going to be on top, so I don't think anybody should be worried about it.
Yeah, pretty well, and it's really bad timing, because he had heat for this, he had heat for that, and then this botch happens, then he gets more heat. It's just like one thing piling up after another. I don't think he's gonna have a huge role at WrestleMania, but I don't see them completely leaving him off the card either. As you alluded to, he's either going to be stuck in Money in the Bank, or maybe him and Truth will have some sort of blow-off match. Like I was thinking, maybe like some sort of street fight or something like that. Maybe to open the show, some undercard match. But he's still going to compete at WrestleMania. If he gets drafted or not, he'll things will improve. He's just kind of the victim of, as you said, their frustration with the WrestleMania build and the buy rates they've been getting, and gotta blame somebody.
Instead of blaming yourselves, you gotta just pick somebody random and blame them. Even though WWE should just sit back and enjoy the ride.
But yeah, I'm a big supporter of the Miz. I'm a fan of his, and this is pretty disappointing to hear.
Yeah.
So that's my take on that.
That takes us into part 4, where we will unfortunately be talking about TNA Against All Odds 2012 pay-per-view predictions. So look forward to it, or don't, like I am, in part 4.